Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unscripted Lessons from Leaders. This is Ashish and I'm the host for today. I'm very excited to have Mihir Mehta with us. He is the mastermind behind Pocket ATM, shaking things in fintech space. And Mihir's journey is actually packed of full of stories from investment banking to disrupting how people access money. And definitely, we promise you it's going to be fun-filled session with plenty of learnings. Mihir, why don't you kick things off by telling us a bit about yourself, what led you start Pocket ATM, and what inspired you to take on this challenge?
Thank you, Ashish. You're kind, courteous, and very honestly, I feel very glad to be here. So, just a little brief about myself, Ashish, would be I started my career, or I would say like academics, in a very quintessential manner in Calcutta, the way it is for most graduates. I studied from Xavier's. And Calcutta and East India actually is a hub for professional courses. So whether it's chart accountancy, company secretaryship, etc. So did that. But interestingly, while I was studying finance, I got placed at Google India, but in the sales role. There was a massive dilemma. When you're in college, you're thinking 5,000 things, I guess, not 50. And all my friends were completing their chart accountancy exams, but I kind of left midway to join Google India. Lovely experience. Learned so many things about running an organization that I can't tell you. I'm super grateful that I got a chance to work at Google. So quit that about 18 months hence, because my calling was still chartered accountancy. So I completed my chartered accountancy, and then a friend and I, we started investment banking team. Truth be told, zero idea about how investment banking worked back then. I guess after spending about 6, 7, 8 years, still is a challenge every day. But
Yeah.
one of the things that really inspired us to build an investment banking team at Ashika Capital was largely we understood capital to be a massive accelerator in a founder's journey. And the role that financial capital plays, the role that the investment partner plays is, I think, you and I are no strangers, or anybody is not a
That's right.
stranger to the news you read on dailies, publications every day. So it was an exciting journey. We worked with a lot of companies in the consumer space, building brands. To be very honest, I remember very fondly like a company today, which I'm sure a lot of us would know as M2P Fintech.
Yeah.
And I've known Madhu for decades now. And I've seen that journey and how capital accelerated the journey, how
Yeah.
partners accelerated that journey. So I think it was a really good stint. So again, investment banking was a services based business, right? I mean, um, how much ever you try, it's essentially a business of relationships, of
Yeah.
being there in the market, etc., etc. And as luck would have it, there was a very interesting experience I had in call it a tier 3 district in Maharashtra called Alibag,
Yes.
where I was trying to pay for something that I had bought. It was I think 150 rupees that I had to pay a pan shop owner, I mean. And the guy was not accepting Paytm. Yeah, I mean, I was trying. I had no cash. I had
Hmm.
cards, and I had UPI. Like I had Paytm. But the guy said, "नहीं मुझे cash ही चाहिए, मुझे किसको देना है," and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, and when I toured about 3 ATMs, none of them had cash supply because
That's
replenishment in tier three.
that's pretty BAU here in India,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So and I was roaming around, driving around, and I was like, कि यार कैसे दूँ अभी इसको, and
Yeah.
I wanted to have
पान भी
that
जरूरी
talk.
है.
Uh,
पान भी जरूरी है, right?
पान भी ज़रूरी है. तो it became this thing. Then I walked into a seaside food stall, and I asked him कि भैया आप मुझे 500 दे दोगे, मैं आपको ट्रांसफर करता हूँ. So I was not
Right.
finding cash, and I was like, कैसे करें? तो very interestingly, he asked me 550 rupees in exchange for 500. मेरी तो ज़रूरत थी, तो मैंने like I instantly paid. But what was very interesting was how hyperlocal demand supply acts, and how
Interesting.
some of these components of that ecosystem were making a 10% on
Oh,
a
good.
transaction which honestly, I mean, was just a function of demand and supply. It was not infrastructure. It was nothing to do with
Correct.
him deploying
Absolutely.
marketing, etc. And what was more surprising was the gentleman actually told me that he was conducting about 7, 8 such transactions in a day, because there was, I
Oh,
mean, that community, that hyper local
it's a good
community.
business model.
Yeah, yeah, he was making actually more than what his shop was making.
Exactly.
It was
Yeah.
very interesting to. I mean, it is surprising, right? I mean, it was such an interesting learning, and then we started understanding how a lot of migrant workers were sending money back home also from cities like Bombay to a place like Alibag or wherever they were coming from to
Exactly.
work.
Yeah.
And all this was being run very informally by these very local kirana stores in these small communities, or I would call it micro markets, where
Mm,
cash ecosystem was still thriving. Obviously, it is a hybrid ecosystem. I wouldn't say it was 100, like, digital versus cash. I think it was largely a hybrid ecosystem. Um, so, you know, from there, Ashish, that's where we started thinking about Pocket ATM.
mm,
Essentially, with two very distinct, I would say, very simple thought processes. One, um, is there a need for physical infrastructure like ATMs, etc., to manage this cash ecosystem? Banking entities, even white labeled ATMs. There's a lot of cost involved. Obviously, with safety, security, etc.
yeah.
But there is physical infrastructure there. Second, the whole replenishment of ATMs is a tedious, cost-heavy exercise, even for
Yeah.
banking entities, because
Very
they
operational sort of thing. Like, it is.
are very operationally heavy.
Yeah.
So, our thought process was very simple back then, continues to be the same now, with a certain change in the way we present it. Is that could we enable, or could we hyperlocalize that ecosystem and enable interaction between the merchant or the shopkeeper or whoever you want to designate it as, and the demand coming from
Yep.
normal average user? So that's about it. That's where we, started working
Nice.
Pocket ATM, which
Nice.
is currently a platform. We call it digital financial inclusion largely because we build solutions for banking entities to enable these shopkeepers to
Interesting.
essentially cut down on costs, make the process more efficient, and so on and so forth. So
Good
yeah,
cause, I
that's
think.
that's that's.
Good cause.
Sorry, it was slightly longish, but that's
No, no, it is perfectly okay. I think I learned also some great insights through this story. Thanks for this nice storytelling on how did you get start on Pocket ATM. Sticking to the context, Mihir, I want to just get into the very, very interesting question, which I generally have because I in past myself was trying to work, trying to kind of indulge myself into a few startups, and then yes, because of some reasons, because of many reasons actually, right, I could not proceed further. Right. But my question back to you is that, how did you approach fundraising, and what is your thought process on that? And how do you think, what will be your strategies towards scaling the business? Right. I know you may be at stage 0 or stage 1 at this point of time, but I'm sure you may have a plan in mind because, okay, once we get through from it, right, there may be some strategies, and maybe I don't want to touch particularly on Pocket ATM because that may be something could be a secret sauce for you, right? I don't want to get into that, but yes, in general, if somebody is aspired to get start their business and then they have taken the first step, right? What will be kind of what will be strategy for them to scale the business, right?
Sure, Ashish. So I'll two parts of your question. One was the approach to fundraising, and second
Yeah,
was scaling.
correct,
Um, so obviously, I think capital is a big enabler for execution of ideas.
correct.
Um, I'm not going into very granular, conversation about how to make a pitch deck or how to approach investors, but I'll tell you largely there are three essential components that every founder should think before they're talking, I mean, about raising capital or approaching and it could be any investor, it could be a family office, it could be a venture capitalist, it could be just just debt capital for that matter. The first is the potential of the idea in terms of at least like understanding what the market
Yeah.
looks like, what kind of like just a very and it's a very humbling exercise for the founder himself or herself that this company can become so and so in the next 5, 6, 7 years, because that is, I mean, at the end day, that that is where the value is created or wealth is
Correct.
generated,
Correct.
whether for yourself or for the investor. The second is what we say the economic moat, or what's the value prop, whether your customer is an institution or it's an
Right.
individual or it's the government, like your B2G businesses. बट एसेंशियली क्या वैल्यू आप ड्राइव कर रहे हो उनके लिए. कभी कभार ऐसा होता है कि वी एक्चुअली थिंक इट्स अ ह्यूज प्रॉब्लम टू सॉल्व फॉर बिकॉज वी आर फेसिंग इट, और
Correct.
इज इट
Very, very important.
is it like a massive, so sometimes chaos and things have to prevail for the things to work. Not every chaos, not every inefficiency is to be solved for. So it's very critical that we are very like, and it's a lot of self how do I put it, like you have to look within to say that यार ये problem जो हम solve करें is a genuine, like it's a massive need for this.
Very, very important point,
हाँ.
Mihir. Very
तो वो
important point.
value prop आप determine करना, whether you talk to 5 of your friends or some strangers, because friends generally will give you good feedback.
I could relate that. I think, that was kind of bullseye. Why, if you remember, I just mentioned to you, I couldn't progress further. That was exactly the reason. Because two things. One, I couldn't, or maybe I didn't validate the problem. Something excites me doesn't mean that it excites the world or it is something to be solved. That's one. And second thing, maybe being an engineer at that point of time, right? Some different thing excites me. Like, okay, I want to solve something with technology. So technology was first on my mind, and I want to build something using this technology rather than focusing on whether it will really help. So in the process, I built something which is state of the art in terms of technology, but not in terms of solving actual problem. Right. So bullseye on that. I think I'm totally with you on that.
Understandable, Ashish, and it does happen sometimes because as I said, we're always I think humans are wired to solve for things. तो आपको
Right. Right.
हमेशा ये होता है. But you know, well, when you solve for things, does it become a business? That's what I meant. And the third, I think, is the team, and that's very critical, right? I mean, कि problem है, solution है, but which is the right guy to solve for it? I mean, that is critical because
Very important. Yeah.
not necessary, like I'm very passionate about climate change, but I'll be very honest also, Ashish, I don't think I'm the right guy to solve for climate change. I mean, I might, I mean,
Right.
I have friends where I can put some money, but am I the right guy to solve for it? Probably not. I know I'm not, because I mean, look, it's just an acceptance. I can't. So, I mean,
Similarly,
rather
yeah, I think similarly, I am very much enticed toward the space, but I'm not the right person to go to space or maybe to solve such
so,
some problem. That's
it's, I think that those are three
exactly
very quick things on that bit, Sheesh. And your scaling, I think, is a function of this. Like,
correct.
if I can extend this, I think, one of the things that we've always seen, and this is something that I learned in one of very interesting sessions, where we were talking about, if the need is really potent and if the delta of experience in terms of what the customer or whoever you're
Right.
trying to solve for is experiencing today, and what your solution can bring to that person, that delta is extremely high. Scale
Very nice.
is gonna come automatically. Like, we used to have these conversations, and I'll again take just 15 seconds on this example. Like, business like IRCTC, it's so beautiful because the current
Yeah.
experience of going to a train station, or at least back then, I remember my father would, if when we were very young, and he would go to the railway station and book tickets and be like, "Ajay, in the sun, in the rain, or whatever." But IRCTC is such a आप घर पे बैठे तो even if IRCTC is not working for 5 minutes, you'd still wait because the delta of that experience they've created as the first
Correct.
mover is huge.
Right.
But probably not the same, and that delta reduces, say, in a comparison between an Uber and a Kali PV. Just as a
Yeah, yeah, good example. Good comparison.
while Uber is a great experience, is it like a massively improved delta over a Kali Pili? Probably not. Like I mean, I have taken Kali Pilis earlier and I've taken Ubers also earlier. If say an Uber wasn't available, I'd still be okay with a like.
Absolutely.
So that is what I feel like. Uh, and fundraising is tied into that. When consumer behavior is abetted with discounts and cashbacks
Mm.
versus the real experience delta, I think that's where scale is a very natural,
Got it. Yeah.
extrapolation. So for us as well, like what we've always tried to look at when and trust me, Ashish, I do this every month. Like I don't do any work for 2 days, and I don't know, like either I'm at home or I'll go somewhere and I'll be like, यार ये जो मैं कर रहा हूँ जिसमें मैं 18-20 घंटे या चलो 18-20 भी नहीं 14 घंटे तो genuinely दे रहा हूँ, यू नो क्या ये genuinely कुछ ऐसा सॉल्व कर रहा है, क्या ये इतना
Yep.
एक्सपीरियंस इम्प्रूव कर रहा है कि otherwise, as I said, sometimes it's good for chaos to prevail. It's
Mm.
the beauty of unorganized stuff is that it is unorganized,
Correct.
and that's why it's beautiful. So as I said, so when we think कि वो actual customer इसके लिए पैसा देगा, see, if you've created something where customers wanting to pay you, like today people are wanting to pay for, I mean, to credit to Apple, I mean, now they've created such a huge behemoth that people love to pay even a lakh or even a lakh and a half. I mean, जो मांगते वो लोग दे देते हैं because शायद उन्होंने एक वैल्यू प्रॉप इतना
That's
डेल्टा
right.
दिया कि they command that, and then scale happens. So that's just a very quick thought process that I'd love to leave with people, that वो course correction, वो self, this thing is very, very important. Uh, and
Nice.
probably founders should do it every month or every 3 months or every 6 months, however they are
Sure.
comfortable.
Nice. Thanks for answering that, Mihir. As a startup founder, how do you strategize that which customer segment I should target first, or maybe which first few customer segments we should target first, depending upon your start, right? Of course, the good case scenario is I want to address all the customers, but that's not feasible, right? So you have to stick to a particular segment, start small, and then take it to the next level. But identifying that small bucket itself could be a very good exercise for a co-founder. What is your view on that?
So, well, I mean, can I use Pocket ATM's example the way
Yes,
we've
yes,
done?
you can use that, definitely. Yeah.
Super. So, look, we obviously work with banking entities, and I won't take names, but I'll tell you, like, this is a very interesting question, Ashish, and a very, very potent one at that. And this is something that is sometimes a trade-off for founders as well. So, the solutions we designed for Pocket ATM, and as I said, I'll just not take names, but let's say there is an Edge Bank, which is India's largest. There is a J Bank, which is a small finance bank, and then there are cooperative banks, which are lower rung of the
Correct.
ecosystem and probably not so sexy.
Absolutely.
When I introduce Pocket ATM to people and say I'm working with XYZ cooperative bank, it's not the sexiest to say, right? But when you
Yeah.
say I'm working with Edge Bank, that's like, oh wow, uh, this is wow,
People suddenly get serious.
serious about it. Ki, hey,
Yeah.
wow, I mean, now, for us, like, we were very clear, like, again, we determined it with hunger levels, like the solutions we built, right? Today, an Edge Bank is so busy with so many things that the hunger, obviously, it's a huge bank with huge operations. There are 50,000 other problems to solve for. So we said, look, we will be one of many there. And yes, we might not get the, like, when I'm at parties and or I'm hanging out with people and I'm telling them that, hey, I don't work with Edge Bank, but I work with 50 cooperative banks.
Right.
It might not have that ring to it, but that brings me money. That
Correct.
sustains my business. That's critical. So the way we looked at, and you were bang on, we had multiple customers that we could
Exactly.
service.
Yeah.
But capital, time, effort is always limited. Like if I had in a day 100 hours, I could serve everybody,
Especially
but
at the start.
unfortunately, nobody has.
Especially at the start. Right.
Yeah, at the start, I mean, you would love to, but it's a conscious decision that as of today, where is Pocket ATM needed the most? Who will value you the most?
Correct.
Edge Bank will, but they will probably give me eyeballs after a year, and I would go 50 times and 100 times and keep doing that. I think for us, the decision was very simple. Where is like, who will respect the solution the most at this time? This is not to say H Bank won't or a J Bank won't, but they will take their own sweet time because there are 50 other things, or they're dealing with other fires or etc. But today, the unserviced, which is the cooperative banks, they need this. They are desperate for the solution. So just because I want to sound like that, hey, Pocket ATM is working with you know the showstoppers, so to say, this is this segment which will generate capital or generate business for me. So our
Yes.
decision was very simple, I think. And now, if you see the whole advent of how things have happened in this country over the last 3 decades, even large conglomerates like a Marrick or a Dabur slowly start realizing, that the tier 5 district or the tier 6 or the tier 4, whether because the guy is unserviced completely, like he
Right.
does not have, and and I understand, I mean, how found, I mean, it's an evolution. तो पहले आपने ये रन को solve किया फिर ऐसा तो I think for us it was very simple, as I said, कि potential कहाँ ज़्यादा है, where there is a customer who's ready.
Good point.
So instead of me going to the H bank, which I will go maybe, but not today, after 4 years, 3 years,
Absolutely.
when I have satiated my desperate customer, if so to say. Why I call it my desperate customer? Because yes, I mean they are not serviced at the moment. They are looking for solutions, but as I said, unfortunately, a lot of folks don't cater there because it's not as sexy as it should be.
Right.
I mean, it's see, look, there was this one very interesting thing, Mr. Tata. I mean, he's a role model. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have said so many beautiful things about him, but that whole nano thing, it wasn't that a lot of car makers probably didn't see what the average,
Mm.
guy who was sitting with a family of three on a bike, or a lady sitting with the kids, or whatever, like four people sitting on a bike could take a car.
Mm.
But because there was a purpose to that, they said, look, we will solve for this and we will give it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever happened with Nano, the idea is that a lot of could have solved for it. But as I said, it's not, 1 lakh rupee car probably is not glamorous enough for a bunch of other
Exactly.
car
No,
makers.
that's a good point. It's a good point.
So for us, it was very clear. यहाँ पे, I have that desperate customer who's actually calling me. So why am I running after somewhere where I will have to call them 50,000 times? Whereas these guys are actually calling me कि आप आओ हमें, we need to solve
Good.
for this.
Nice. Okay. So, shifting a bit, Mihir, like, great insight, and sticking to those examples like H Bank and J Bank and whatnot, right? So, how do you see the future of fintech kind of spanning in India for next 5 years or maybe more than that? Because a lot of efforts I can see happening, especially not just from the fintech as a domain perspective, but there are new technology also joining day in day out. AI, Gen AI or Chat GPT of the world and things like that, right? So in general, like how do you see the future of fintech in next 5 years for India?
I'll just tell you, in line with what's been happening over the last 2, 3 years, even from a regulator's perspective and how things have evolved in fintech. I think one, it's a huge, huge market. I think, you know, banking as a banking as an ecosystem, financial services as an ecosystem, uh, and could be payments, capital markets, whatever that is, right, has touched probably 1/4 of the people we have today in this country. So it is
Mm.
huge. I mean, every player can have a space, have its own market share, etc., etc. Largely, I think, you know, if I were to talk about payments in fintech as a space, or banking, I think where where I see fintech, and this is a realization we've had after a year of working with the regulator, with banking entities, is that um, there are banks to service the the needs of people with various products. It could be
Yeah.
accounts, loans, it could be credit, insurance, whatever that is, right? I think the challenge is institutions aren't empowered with tech, and that's where,
Yeah.
in my mind, the gap is. There are, I mean, when we've gone down to and have traveled a lot in the last 6 months to tier three,
Yeah.
tier four towns, and we've met a lot of cooperative banks, and it's been astonishing to see that the kind of mass they serve locally, community wise, micro markets, but have not been empowered with technology. It's still being run the way it used to be,
Yes.
right? And unfortunately, what's happened is that now, with other folks in their vicinity going ahead, they've also started feeling the need key, I need to save cost, I need to increase, throughput, etc.,
Yeah,
etc. Like, they're
absolutely.
talking efficiency kaise aayegi and things like that. So I think, in my mind, the gap is empowering your traditional institutions who own products,
Right.
whether it's credit, insurance, capital market, whatever that is, right? Empowering institutions is where I feel fintech, I mean, which obviously it is tech at the center of it, could empower things. Um, in specifics, I think huge opportunities like embedded finance. It's a massive, massive opportunity for people to explore. Because I think one of the things that has always happened is financial services, money management has always been looked as a different module from your regular डे टू डे लाइफ.
Right.
तो लोग कहते हैं कि हाँ, हम देखते हैं, या हम बाद में जाएंगे बैंक में, या हम ये बाद में करेंगे, हम अकाउंट, डीमैट अकाउंट बाद में खुलाते हैं, अभी अभी ग्रोसरीज लानी है, ये करना है, so on and so forth. But I think more and more what's happening is that could like today, if you're ordering groceries on a quick commerce app, could your money directly from there be invested into a mutual fund? I mean, obviously there are companies doing that, but like, could you use some of these use cases and embed a financial service there? Whether it's a mutual fund, it's an insurance, it's,
Exactly.
as I said, credit, and that's happening. But that's again, as I said, it's a huge. There are so many use cases. It's not just limited to one use case. But yeah, so I am very, very excited because, as I said, I think सबसे बड़ी बात, and लोग ये कहते हैं कि यार इंडिया में how many people are truly digital or truly this thing, which is where I feel it will always, I think, the kind of demography India has, Ashish, in my mind, will always be phygital, not completely
Yeah.
digital, not completely physical, cannot be. We have that kind of demography. While we have X number of digital natives, we also have fence sitters, we also have averse guys, but it to service that whole category. So in my mind, I think pockets है, truly digital के भी pockets है, physical के भी pockets है, but as we are moving ahead, I think phygital is where the
Good
and
term.
a lot of banks today, like, we are working with banks who are now saying that, hey, look, we're not like digital, yeah, physical. It's not a selection. We're a, we are both.
Good. I like the term physical,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Uh, all right. So thanks for that answer, Mihir. The next question is my favorite actually, right? And I kind of emphasize a lot on this aspect. That is kind of measuring, right? Measuring, and I emphasize that, okay, to my team as well at my workplace. Continuous measurement is something for any product to grow or where you want to take it. That is an implicit aspect. It is not like you measure at the end, right? You should have checkpoints and stuff like that. But I want to know your view, and especially biased with Pocket ATM. How did you apply those things, like, to make sure that you are kind of onto the right direction or not, right? Sometimes, in the kind of, because of various factors, right, it's quite natural that you kind of diverse from the roadmap, or things like that, right? So how do you see measurement, and how did you apply measurement continuously in and at Pocket ATM?
You're bang on. Bang on. I think so. To my previous point, when I was telling you, right, Ashish, कि मैं 2 दिन महीने में कुछ नहीं करता हूँ, where and it's a culmination of a lot of things. But no, it is spot on. I think one of the challenges that most founders face, and I'm sure, like, because I've dealt with so many founders and folks, is that, see, you're so much in your operational chaos.
Right.
आप एचआर हो गया है, एडमिन हो गया, या इवन मतलब छोटी चीजें, बड़ी चीजें, एवरीथिंग इज हैपनिंग साइमल्टेनियसली। यहाँ हम ऑडिट साइन करना भूल गए, यहाँ हम वो करना, दैट यू आर लाइक, यू आर सो क्लोज टू द प्रॉब्लम। अच्छा, कस्टमर्स है, कस्टमर्स रोज फोन, मतलब थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग एट ब्रेक
Exactly.
नेक स्पीड, राइट? तो इट्स वेरी वेरी नेचुरल टू लूज साइट ऑफ कि आप कर क्यों रहे इतनी, मतलब पार्डन मी, मतलब इतनी आप जो मेहनत, मशक्कत कर रहे हैं, रोज कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्या वो हो भी रहा है जो आप करना चाहते हैं? मतलब, इज दैट
Exactly.
हैपनिंग? So for us, I think we've done this from day one, that every month, every quarter, see, what we've not done, Ashish, is we've not set matrices as set in stone, right?
Mm.
And what I mean by that is, हमारे लिए ऐसा नहीं है कि ओ एक्स many clients, we're not setting targets at the moment, or x many solutions, x many users, x many, we obviously, so there is a MIS for that, I mean, that is there. But I'm talking more implicit, more
Yeah.
non-visible matrices, right? Ki, just as an example, um, today, for instance, we've deployed a solution, so it's very easy for me to say users itne hain, इतने यूजर्स रोज आते हैं या रोज यूज करते हैं, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, लाइक योर एक्टिव यूजर्स एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स, राइट?
Yeah.
But one of the things we do every quarter is that, okay, if this solution is deployed with X many users, how many feedbacks did we collect? Like, how many
Nice.
times did our team reach out to
Yep.
them saying that, अच्छा, आपको दिक्कतें क्या होती है? और उसमें से कितने लोगों ने पहली बात तो रिस्पॉन्ड किया? So if people are not responding, which means they're not bothered.
Correct.
So either they're not using it, or else it's so freaking perfect कि हम तो भगवान के ही वो है कि it's so freaking perfect, right? आप कुछ यूज करते हैं तो दिक्कतें आती ही हैं, प्रोडक्ट्स है,
Natural.
सॉल्यूशन,
Yeah.
देयर आर चैलेंजेस, पीपल इवॉल्व। तो हमारे लिए ये ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि आप, लाइक, द टीम इज़ टोल्ड कि आप ये भी बातें करो कि करते हैं तो क्या दिक्कतें आती हैं उनको। एवरी क्वार्टर you have to reach out to at least 50 customers and 50 users to say that 50 में से, पहली बात तो, now if only 5 responded, तो 10% is a very poor response rate। तो
Mm.
क्या 90% यूज ही नहीं कर रहे, या 90% को ये लग रहा है कि हम कुछ फोड़ बना चुके हैं कि उनको कोई मतलब ही नहीं है, कि बहुत बढ़िया चल रहा है। So things like that, and there, one of the things that I'm very very grateful for, and I think people should have, that is a very stellar, very very stellar non-friend advisory board. um, the reason I use the word non-friend, see, जैसे मैं कहता हूँ, I watched that जाकिर का एक बहुत ही बढ़िया एपिसोड था where he says माँ का प्यार होता है, वैसे ही दोस्तों का प्यार भी दोस्तों का प्यार ही होता है, मतलब they will
Unfiltered.
is good यार, मतलब अच्छा कर रहे हो
They are unfiltered, right?
यार, कि अच्छा कर रहे हो यार, गुड, because they always are balancing emotion, right, कि यार हम
Yeah.
इसे hurt ही नहीं करते, and things like that, and it's true. So we have like some very senior members on our advisory board. For instance, right, we have the former CEO of Writer Corporation, which is India's second largest. Used to be, they sold to Hitachi, but they're the second largest cash logistics company in this country. We have
Nice.
former ED RBI on our board. We have the managing partner at Morgan Stanley Private Equity on our board. And these guys actually grill you. So automatically what happens is every like we have a interaction every month or at least 45 days where, because we are so embroiled in what we are doing, these guys come in and say, Acha, Mihir, is this इसके बारे में बताओ, या tell me about this metric. Okay, if banks are using it, what kind of throughput are you achieving when banks are using it, and so on and so forth.
Good. Yeah.
And that keeps you honest. That keeps you honest. That keeps you, um, grounded. And that's what I'm saying. Even if they might not be big names, they have to be people who are not related, who are not bringing emotion into the equation.
Right.
Because इमोशन तो आप ही ले आते हो एज अ फाउंडर, क्योंकि आप
Right.
कहते हो यार नहीं अच्छा ही चल रहा है, you're so
Good point.
emotional about your idea, about your business, that emotion makes you overlook things, and it's a fact. I mean, I'm not going to sweet sugarcoat it, but होता है, because even if you're performing poorly, you're like हाँ हाँ नहीं, but फिर भी देखो हम लास्ट मंथ तो ऐसे थे, अभी तो एटलीस्ट अभी देखो इंडस्ट्री की ऐसी हालत है, अभी देखो ये ऐसा है, and it's very natural. हम मैं खुद justify, like I myself justify things कि हाँ हाँ अच्छा इस महीने, it's okay if like there are times where I say हाँ ठीक है यार, I think Diwali season है, इसलिए a lot of people are not providing feedback, like
Hmm.
that's how, because as I said, we are emotional. तो वो आ जाता है, but when somebody external asks you and says कि नहीं यार ऐसा तो, I mean that's not a good enough reason, etc., so then you are honest to yourself कि हाँ नहीं यार, it wasn't right, or
Yeah.
yeah, something is going wrong, उसको fix करना है. So I feel
Absolutely.
having somebody external is a boon. It might sound very, trust me, it's atrocious. वो जब हम बात करते हैं, because वो होता है ना कि अच्छा हाँ ये नहीं हुआ था, ठीक है, I mean I know.
Hmm.
तो जब कोई आपकी वो अंडर परफॉर्मेंस से कुछ पॉइंट आउट करता है, it's
No,
not the
that
most
makes
pleasant
sense.
thing to hear, but I think it's the best thing because it keeps you
It's
honest.
required. It's required. I would like to just maybe add. I'm sure you guys must be also doing that. But yes, so within the measurement, kind of I emphasize as a tech leader or maybe as a product leader now, to have inbuild those capabilities within your product, right? For example, yes, we can reach out to customers and ask many things, but today's kind of market, generally people generally don't kind of they don't have time to respond to feedbacks or kind of take things seriously until unless you're a big brand, right? So what I suggest, that you can just add inherent way of capture some of those metrics. For example, as you mentioned, the active users, different diversity of users and their traits, like how, what kind of demographic they are carrying. And for example, if on a particular screen of your app or a web page, right, if they are spending much time, there could be two reasons for that. Either this is working well so that people are kind of spending time on it, or maybe people are stuck there, right? Something of that sort. We can just have those kind of insights directly from your product itself, so that yes, so whatever required human feedbacks and response, we cannot replace them. Yes, those sentiments, we should capture. But yes, if we can make use of technology here as well, as you mentioned some time back, right? Technology are playing an important role in the fintech space, right? But in general, from the measurement perspective, as well as we are building the product, the implicit measures can be applied, like all those metrics are kind of in form of a fancy dashboard you're seeing day in day out. Okay, oh, these many new customers, these many types of new customers, and things like that, right?
No,
But good
absolutely
point.
bang on there for a product company. And as well, like for us as well, we do this MIS every month where we essentially
Yeah,
uh, we actually get these data. So we have, I mean, we have, I won't call it a fancy dashboard. We have a decent
yeah, some
dashboard
dashboard.
which tells us या कि इतने transactions हुए या इतने
Nice,
लोगों ने
nice.
आज ये QR use किया and so on and so forth. So no, absolutely bang on here. I think it really helps. And wo see, so one is, and I feel, and this was a problem we faced also. um, and I it's just a 1 second thing to all founders कि dashboard data दे सकता है but data के पे आपको बैठना पड़ेगा. Like one of the
Yes,
things
yes.
we also face क्योंकि हम as I said हम हमेशा ये सोचते हैं हाँ देखते देखते हाँ देखते देखते like because so that's what I'm saying, like when people externally ask you those hard questions it's really
Yes.
helpful. But क्योंकि we were getting that data and the unfortunate thing was we were not finding time to evaluate that data. तो
Mm,
डैशबोर्ड हमें रोज का देता था कि देता है, आई मीन वी गेट दैट डेटा एवरी डे कि इतना इतना ऐसे आज एंड मंथ का एग्रीगेशन एंड एवरीथिंग. एंड फॉर द फर्स्ट 2 months वी नेवर इवन सॉ इट एंड आई एम बीइंग वेरी कैंडिड अबाउट इट. एंड देन
mm.
वी सेड यार हम कर क्या रहे हैं? आ तो रहा है, प्रॉब्लम
करे
भी
क्या
है
इसके साथ,
बट
करे क्या इसके साथ?
तो कर ही नहीं रहे हम.
Mm,
देन वी स्टार्ट सेइंग कि नहीं नहीं यार हम वी शुड यूज इट आल्सो. एंड उसका हमने फिर एक उस डैशबोर्ड के पे से एक हमने एक वी क्रिएटेड अ पिवट एंड ऑल दैट शिट कि
correct, correct.
आ तो रहा है, इनपुट आ रहा है लेकिन हम कुछ कर नहीं रहे उसका.
Nice, nice. I think yeah, that's where those dashboards sometimes give you actionable insights as well. Like what key or next step, or what could, if you need to stop something or if you need to start something, basically, right? But that's fine. So we are heading towards our last question, Mihir, and I would like to keep it like I want to see make it spicy a bit. Maybe one word answer, or maybe 1 or 2 word answer. What is the first thing, or what is the only word which come in your mind if you want to kind of relate customer belief or customer trust?
Transparency.
Nice.
Yeah,
Because transparency, I would also say +1 to that, because that will not just help you to gain new customers, but to retain customer as well. Right. So that's where, that helps there. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time, Mihir. I think this was pretty nice and pretty insightful discussion.